All right, we're back. Good morning,
Thank you.
everybody, and welcome to Talking Biz. Stuart, welcome back.
Thank you.
This segment, we've got a really interesting attorney on. Not only is he an interesting attorney, he's become a friend over the last couple of years. We've done a few things together in the real estate world. We've done stuff. And I'd like to introduce David Soble, Esquire. Good morning,
hi,
David.
Paul. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for being on, getting up on this cold January morning. And we talked about the weather. Like Wednesday, we thought we were in spring, and today we are freezing our butts off.
Well, I was going to come in pajamas this morning because it was so early.
Well, Stuart and I are wearing pajama bottoms, so it's okay. It's at the top. You can wear
Saturday
this.
morning.
Cameras are
waist
above.
up. It's waist up.
You just didn't know. Hey, if anyone's listening out there and would like to call in, call us at 844-999. That's 4 9s in a biz. 249. So it's 844-999-99249. If you want to tell a friend to listen, go to www.newradiome.com. And once again, you can download our app at NRM Streams. That's stream with a Z. So I got to put the little spot in there. David, you've been doing podcasting and stuff for how many years now?
Like 3 years.
Yeah,
I don't have a setup like this.
Well, some boys with bigger toys, and we just decided to build a network.
It's
just like,
beautiful.
This is one of 12 studios or maybe more over the next few years. And then we're going to license this around the country to build a network. And believe it or not, we have 3 or 4 cities already interested in licensing part of the network.
I believe it.
So it's a lot of fun. But David, when I thought about guests and I thought about people in the Detroit market, I thought about you and I said, boy, he's an attorney, but he's a businessman, and he's a really down-to-earth guy.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're a down-to-earth guy, and when I talk to you and people talk to you, you sort of dummy down the law a little bit. It's like a law for dummies.
Well, they're not dummies.
No,
but,
but I'm just saying, yeah.
A lot of attorneys, first of all, I want to thank you for saying that. I'm in the business of law, is what I like to say. I'm a lawyer. I've been doing it for almost 30 years as a real estate and finance attorney. But when it comes to writing and giving people information and disseminating information, a lot of attorneys will write for other attorneys in professional journals and periodicals, and that's all well and good. That's wonderful. That's very educational.
Right.
But the people who are having the issues are usually not the attorneys.
Right.
They're the general public or business owners, and for my clientele are going to be real estate investors and people dealing with the banks, with loans and loan agreements and contracts. So if I speak with them in legalese, they call that legalese, all the technical terms, they don't understand it.
It's like speaking Chinese to them.
The best clients, right, Paul, the best clients are the ones that have enough information that they need to be able to make a decision. But if you give them very complicated theories and definitions, you can't really represent them well because they're ultimately the driver of the bus.
Right.
Your client has to make the decision. We can pave the road. I can smooth out all the obstacles, the bumps in the road. I can, give you, if there's a Y in the road or a fork in the road.
Right.
They have to make the decision. So you better give them the best information in a user-friendly, practical manner. And that's what I do.
Well, it's interesting. It's deciphering the law. Same thing with Stuart with the adjusting business. It's deciphering the insurance policy.
Right.
So let's go back a little bit, David, because you know what? You're a lawyer, but let's go back in some of your experience that made you the good business person you are. So let's go back.
You're so kind. I'm going to come every Saturday morning
You
if you have me.
No, let's talk about this, Dave, because, you go back, and I got to know you, and I know your family, and your uncle and all that. So we go back a little bit, and we met. It's like, why haven't we met earlier?
Right.
I met your brother before you, and go there, and you do this thing. But, people don't realize, it's like people look at me and they say, you're an entrepreneur, you're a coach, but what's your experience? How many times have you fallen? How many times have you learned things? How many you do things? And people want to deal with someone who really knows what they're talking about. And you do.
Right. Well, Einstein,
you
know what, my favorite quote is Einstein says something to the effect that knowledge is all based on experience. If you don't have the experience, what do you know? Right?
Yeah, so let's go back to, let's talk about your banking experience.
Right.
So let's talk about, markets collapse. You're working on here, this, and this.
Okay.
So let's go back a few years.
Well, I've been in real estate since 1990, and I was very blessed and fortunate. I worked for a group of companies and bankers who were much older than me and were willing, they were already successful.
Right.
And so they were willing to impart a lot of information to me, and they became my mentors. So I delved in a lot of real estate transactions and then got involved in the real estate transactions. So not only did I have to do the work for my bosses and the people I worked for, but then they invited me in to start reaping the rewards myself. So that knowledge is really from doing the actual, let's say, business of real estate, as well as advising on real estate, right?
Yeah.
So real estate and contracts and finance, all that stuff I've been dealing with since 1990. And so, I mean, I have a lot of stories that, I write a lot of news articles and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I have a newsletter, I call it Anecdotes. So I love telling stories, and they're all based on my experience to impart lessons to clientele, people who may or not become clients, but at least have the information. So going back to, I came out of law school at Ohio State. Sorry. I knew you were going to say that.
Well, it's funny. A guest that's coming on our last segment, son, is actually going to Ohio State for actuary science. So
That's a good school.
Great school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that a buzzer or something like that?
That's something. Oh,
Is that because I said the word Ohio State?
Wait a second. No, let me, folks, I hate to say it. Hold on.
Go Blue.
I'm going to break this. That was an Amber Alert.
Oh.
And since we're a business show and
Sure.
we're live, let's talk about this Amber Alert, Detroit. There's a vehicle, 2-week-old female, pink. So they're looking for a 2-week-old female that's been taken.
Oh.
So we're a new show, so we
Right.
just announced the Amber
Sure.
Alert. Part of my
Yeah,
cough,
good,
excuse me,
right.
I got a cough button I should hit, but
Yeah.
Amber Alert. So we're up to date. If you're listening live, there's an Amber Alert, and I'm sure every phone in this city is going off and going out. So sorry for the Amber
it's
Alert,
okay.
but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs myself, and Stuart, who's a lawyer, you're an entrepreneur. College education against street smarts and learning from your mentors. What ranks higher?
Oh my God! I was so green coming out of law school.
Okay.
So again,
Right.
you learn that you become, you be book smart.
Yeah.
I like to think I went to a good law school,
Mm-hmm.
but when I came out of law school, I had no idea the ways of the world per se. I always like to tell a story if I can, real briefly.
No, go ahead. You got time.
Yeah, when I came out of law school, I was in charge of a lot of real estate issues, and one of the issues was a home that needed to be cleaned up. So this was a foreclosure going back to like 1993. And my job was to make sure that the property was secure. Now everybody knows what foreclosures are, unfortunately, since the mid-2000s. But in the 90s, foreclosure was not a common thing.
Yeah.
And, it was out there. It was a vehicle to be used for default, what we call default servicing, to collect money back. But it wasn't very common. But so I had a home that I had to repair, and I was in charge of making sure that it was secure and cleaned and ready for sale. And I did the foreclosure work, and I did the REO stuff, et cetera. And I wrote a check at that time probably for $1,600 to a company that said that they cleaned out the home. Now, this is down in Cleveland. I practiced in Cleveland for a couple of years, and my boss was out of state. And it was right before Thanksgiving. And I wanted to come back home to Detroit with my new wife, and I'm about to leave to go to Thanksgiving dinner from Cleveland. And I'm in the car, and the secretary pulls me back into the office. She says, your boss is on the phone. So I go back, and he says, hey, you know that house that you were supposed to clean out and everything and get ready for market? I'm like, yeah, it's all taken care of. He says, no, it's not. And I said, no, but I paid somebody to clean this out. And I wrote him a check. He says, yeah, but did you inspect the home? I'm
So
like,
he cleaned you out.
Right. And I'm like, no, this whole thing. Anyways, long story short, I learned, actually I think it was 1991, not 1983, because I would have known better by then.
Yeah.
They just took the money. I was just so green, I wrote the check. Well, I ended up not being able to go back home for Thanksgiving because my boss basically said, you cannot go home
To the house.
until you clean that house. I drove all the way over to the other side of Cleveland. I had to tell my wife we weren't going home. And when I opened the door, there were 2 huge Rottweilers in the house that these people had left. There was dog feces all over the house. And it was right before Thanksgiving. Where am I going to get somebody to clean this place up? And at that time, they didn't have we didn't have the internet, right? I'm sorry, for those people listening. And I had
When
to
the
run.
internet got junk, you don't have those guys either.
And I had called my boss from the payphone. I said, well, I'm going to get somebody to come out and clean it up. And he goes, oh, no, you clean it up. I don't want you to pay anybody. You already wasted the money. And I was standing there in front of, like, by an ACO or an Ace Hardware. I was so disappointed. Here I am with a law degree, at a bank, et cetera. I'm very excited. Well, I was very disappointed. I think I had a tear in my eye. My eyes were a little weepy.
Sure.
I walked into Ace. I got myself a rain suit, the whole thing, and a bucket and a mop. And I called a realtor who we had wanted to be in charge of this, and he ended up getting somebody to come and take the dogs, thank God. And I scrubbed. for a couple days. I would go back and forth to this house to make sure it was clean.
You'll
Because
never
my boss, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, you'll never forget
Right.
that. You look at
That's
that.
the experience.
Well, you talk about street smarts
Yeah.
and look about that, and
Yeah.
we want to trust people.
Right.
And today, in this where things come into law, you want to trust someone. And it's very difficult to trust a lot of people today. I mean, we're living in a society where it's untrusting. You want to do a handshake agreements. You want to do things like that. You want to do things like this. And you people want to do that. And in my world of commercial real estate, you got 2 or 3 guys out of hundreds you can do that handshake with. But for the law, you make sure it's ready.
Sure.
Because you go to court, people say, where's the contract? Well, he told me. Well,
you'd
told
be
me
shocked, right.
he told me is no good anymore. So it's really good. So I want to ask you something else. You believe that your family had a little real estate experience, right?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
Did that help you along the way?
You know what? My father of blessed memory, he was very bright, and he and my father-in-law were very, and still are. My father-in-law is still with us, thank goodness, and very bright and dealt with a lot of real estate, but not so much real estate knowledge as just general business knowledge.
Yeah.
But one of my mentors once told me years ago he would love to just take a cord from one brain to the other and impart the information, but you have to learn. I mean, I bared my soul to you, Paul, about this story, but the whole idea is you learn from experience.
Sure.
I mean, after that, when I would write a check for any of these companies that would come in, bringing me all the way through, to today, when somebody says I did it, first thing I say is I want to see it. It's trust but verify. It's a big.
Well, it's a little easier to do. Show me pictures with
Sure,
phones. It is.
sure.
I mean, it's amazing what you can do.
I don't even take phones. I mean, I still deal with lending and mortgages and real estate, and when there's an issue, I go and inspect it.
Wow, this time is flying by.
Wow.
We're going to talk for a few more minutes, and I'm
Okay.
going to take a break. But
Great.
I want to talk about your books when we come back
Okay,
on the
great.
other end, because you are an author.
Would like that, yeah.
You are a unique attorney. You are a unique person, and we'll talk about that. You laugh, unique person.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't know that you knew Stuart.
Yeah.
That well, and
Sure.
so when Stuart says, David Soble's coming out, I love David. I love David. So we have a little love fest going on.
It's all good.
So
Okay, good.
it's real good. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in, let's say, about a minute and a half, and we'll talk back with David Soble right after these breaks. We're back. We're back with a nice little break, and I want to remind people we have our guest. This segment is David Soble, Esquire. David.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome here. And I want to remind people that my co-host today is Stuart Dorff.
Happy to be here.
So Stuart is here. David, we talked a little bit about your experience, who made you who you are, what you are, all that. And I want to talk about, you're an author.
Yeah.
You're an author. I want to talk about your 2 books, What's Keeping You Up at Night, and you have 2 of them. 2 of them. And I'd like to talk about the books. Let's talk about the first one for a second here.
It's about real estate. It's called What's Keeping You Up at Night, Real Estate Nightmares, how to address those. Every day people come in my office, Paul, and they get sick all over my desk. And they ask me to clean it up. That's my job, right?
Okay.
They come in.
Do you do windows also?
No, just
Okay.
with regard
Windows are doors.
I don't. They get sick all over my dealing with real estate issues. The other book that we can mention in a minute is dealing with loan and debt issues and contract issues.
Right.
But they come in and a lot of them have information that they've not even purchased. They've gone on the internet, which it's fine. They've gleaned information from what we call internet chatter. And they've done what they think they've done the work already. Like they purchase a contract or a document off these sites that these directories like Rocket Lawyer or LegalZoom, right? And that's all well and good. But the thing is, that's like buying, I don't know, I always say it's like that MyPillow commercial. I'm not giving a plug to MyPillow, but you can buy a pillow
Wait, those
online.
are good pillows.
Yeah, I'm sure they
are. You got
are.
the coupon code?
Yeah.
More?
Is it Bensman? Is it Bensman?
Got a pillow?
Right.
Yeah.
New radio media.
New radio media.
Right.
Hey, wait a second. Our advertising department, call the guy with the pillows and make note.
Sure, that's a good
Okay.
one. Very good. I'm sure you do well with
yeah,
it.
tell the ad guys.
Sponsor. Josh, sponsor.
But the thing about it is, when you're looking at those documents, the document is not really, where the document doesn't give you what you really need. It's the advice of an attorney, of a qualified attorney. A lot of people don't realize that.
And I want to say something,
Yeah.
because for a short brief, I was involved with some legal company. It was probably a really interesting experience. But it's funny because I heard a case, and I heard a case that went onto Legal Zoom, and they did it, and it was a divorce case.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady thought she'd do the divorce case, but she lost. Guess what?
What?
It wasn't state specific.
Oh,
It wasn't state specific.
Oh, right.
So she goes, I'm going to get this divorce done for $199.
Sure.
I filled out all the forms. She files it. She's going to win. She's going to do it. Next thing, she lost in the case and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to save $1,000, $1,500, $2,000.
That's
They
crazy.
do that. So it wasn't state specific. And I heard more and more of these cases. So legal, and there are lawsuits with some of these. Beginning to go on. People believe it's like an infomercial.
No, right.
You know, if you believe the Ginsu knife will cut through your house and stay sharp, you know,
That's a great analogy.
That, right?
Sure.
So but people believe that. So I've learned a lot of things. One, when picking an attorney, you want an attorney that knows what he's doing.
Right.
Two, that talks to you like you're a human being and you understand it. So he's not speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
And go to a specialist.
Yeah, that's the most important.
You don't
right?
go, I need brain surgery. I'm not going to go to a podiatrist.
Right.
You know,
People
unless,
don't get that.
unless I got toes growing out of my head.
You know what?
So, but back to you.
Yeah.
Back to you. It's like it's also the comfort level.
Yeah.
The people are a fear of the unknown. I think in everyone I've talked to, you've done stuff. I had a title that needed being cleaned up, and I remember we did that business.
Oh,
thing,
sure.
And you cleaned it up, and you dug deep. It wasn't easy.
No.
We had
never is.
but we had a client that had lost paperwork. Did
Sure.
this
For years.
For years, we were looking for someone to sign off something. You said, find this, and we found it, and it was a big deal.
Right.
It was $1.2 million, $1.3 million.
Yeah.
And you were there, and David. But the comfort level I had as a real estate broker working with you, who says, let's go back to David. Here's the guy that does it.
Right.
And so not to make your ego big.
No, I'm coming every Saturday morning. I told you. I'm bringing you donuts
Mental
every
health.
Saturday.
Well,
I'm coming on Friday and Wednesdays.
I guess I'm the therapist and the professional. So but the fact is,
I'm here on Monday.
don't forget the chopped liver on
Sure.
Thursday. But anyways,
Okay.
but the fact is the comfort level.
That's experience.
I had a situation in one of my businesses right now that's been driving me nuts, and I talked to a litigation attorney this week, and he really gave me comfort. He said, your agreement is lock solid. It's all you're in the driver's seat. You got nothing to worry about. Guess what? I slept very well that night, and people don't understand. So once again, having you on it, and this is not a cheerleading session.
No,
this is just a bare fact situation.
Thank you. All right.
That you are truly, one, a professional, two, a man who has experience, and really to the point where you're hand-holding. And the last thing is, you care.
Right. Well, I mean, that's your reputation at stake, right? I mean, you want to
Yeah.
take care of it. I will tell you this, Paul. You said something about specialist. Yeah. The public should know. I mean, this is a great forum to let the public know that the American Bar Association actually names approximately 85 legal specialties out there. So, like, there's maritime law, there's admiralty law, which is like two different things.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Add to sales department. There's 85
Oh,
categories for 85
Funny.
legal shows.
Right.
Okay.
That's funny.
It's funny. We're meeting with a very big law firm in the end of the month that looks at needs ad marketing in the digital space.
Sure.
And now that I know there's 85, I got to
You're
go
gonna be
find
very
3.
busy.
Yeah, they only have 25, so I got to
Sure.
find out 2 more big firms that have the other things.
Right.
But you're right, because and people go to someone, and I'll say this again. There's always someone that will do something cheaper. And, especially in the law world. So this guy says, I'll charge you $150 an hour, $125 an hour, but it might take that guy 3 times as many
That's right.
hours, where they go to the professional that might be $200-$300 an hour, and that professional knows the answer.
Nothing of value is free, Paul.
Right. And so that person within an hour or two, for $600, can take care of it, get the right answer. Where the other guy's going to say, you know what? It took me 20 hours to research this.
I at risk of sounding like a braggart, because my goodness, you've done such a great job for me this morning. I appreciate it already. I pride myself in kind of zooming in really quickly on the problem. So a lot of people do come to my office on a weekly basis. And I even took the domain name at one point. It's David, I wish I had called you sooner, Soble. I just took the middle part. I wish I had called you sooner, because people always say that.
Does your wife believe that?
No. But funny. She's not listening.
Okay.
She's sleeping.
Mine is.
But the thing is that again, at risk of sounding modest, and there are great attorneys out there, but when it comes to real estate and certain issues, somebody can come in and every week this happens, I have a guy who for 3 years has been trying to sell a hotel, and he has a major title issue. And there's an estate involved, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of like the one we worked on a while ago. And he could not clear the title. Now the value of the property has actually gone up, of course, because it's Detroit, right? Metro Detroit or downtown Detroit. And I took a week, went through it. Part of my business is called Proven Resource. I think you're aware of it. Right. And that's a network. I have a network of very experienced attorneys in different areas and business people in different areas and realtors in different areas. And I use that network and Proven Resource to get things done. So in this one file, there were like 3 different things. I had a trust issue, I had commercial real estate issue, and this weird, it was a weird tax issue. So I called in all the people to help me on the phone to be able to work through this problem. I mean, that's part of being a lawyer is getting it done, but also knowing, who do you have to go to get this thing done, right? Plus the legal knowledge. Anyways, after about a week and a half, I was able to get a title company to feel comfortable enough once we were able to show them and verify certain items to insure over that transaction to be able to close on the hotel. And it's not like the Pontchartrain Hotel. It was just an old hotel.
But to those people, that's
no,
livelihood.
No. And I never count. I always tell my clients when they come in and they look. I give them the hourly rate, et cetera. But the one thing I always tell people is I never count your money. It's not my business to count what you're going to make or how you're going to do it. The law is mechanical in the sense that the same things have to happen over and over again. The research, the review, the verification of evidence, et cetera, those things are mechanical. It's the opinion that is not mechanical, forming the opinion, giving a legal opinion. And that's the difference, to remind your audience and to remind you, Stuart, that he's a qualified attorney as well, a very good one. But the thing is that that's the difference between a internet form or internet paragraphs of stories that people share online. That's the difference. That won't help you in your particular case. You should go to a qualified attorney in their area of expertise, whatever it is.
I agree. Let's touch base on your second book.
Yeah,
it's funny. The half hour is going by so quick. I'm looking at the time.
Okay, you want me to speak faster?
No. Let's touch base. Give me a minute about the second book you wrote, and then say where they can get both books.
Well, okay. So the second book relates to debt and loan contracts. They're really it's geared towards people who are small business owners or are taking out loans or they're entering into a contract that has a financial consequence. And that's actually pretty broad because most contracts will have a financial consequence. Most contracts are wonderful for people to enter into. The first 20% of a contract is very exciting for people. Oh, I'm going to get this, you're going to get that. It's very exciting. But the other 80% of a contract is what the other party is going to do to you when you fail to meet your obligations under the contract.
Well, people go to the contract when you screw up.
And so, again, that whole idea of, I wish I had called you sooner. So most people just engage, sign the contract and walk away. But there are so many things that you can do to limit your exposure. My job is to reduce financial risk and legal exposure. In a nutshell, that's what I do all day. Okay, and that book really addresses those issues when you enter into a contract, what you need to be looking for, how you can get out of it, how to deal with a banker. I worked at the banks for many, many years. I'm what they would call a former bank insider, and you would be shocked at what goes on at a bank. But most banks are in the business of doing only one thing, just like Stuart dealing with the insurance company. They're in the business of making money, and they're going to do everything they can to reduce their risk and their financial exposure.
No, that's the bank. That's their business.
That's their whole business. I don't fault them for that.
Every time I go to the bank, I ask for samples, and they say, matter of fact, Chemical Bank closed their branch at Northwestern, and I asked if they're going to run a going out of business sale, hundreds for 80. And they just looked at me and said, what sample? And so it's funny. I go to Chemical once, and I think it was Talmer Bank before they switched to and I asked for samples, and they finally gave me a bag of shredded money.
That's so funny.
But I hired like 13 guys to put the money together. I got $1, but it cost me $1,300 to get the guy. So it was a lost venture. I
You're
wasn't
so
smart,
funny.
thought out. But anyway,
Yeah.
it flies by, David. Let's talk about a couple things.
Okay.
We've only got less than 2
Okay.
minutes left.
Right.
So I want to say, when people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
The company or the website
Yeah.
domain is provenresource.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can also go on sobleonmobile.com, or you can dial 888-789-1715. And
Soble on mobile.
yeah,
That's great.
Boy,
Soble
and then on a
mobile.
Sunday I'm going to have Sable with Soble.
yeah,
Sable, Soble, Soble
I don't
on
eat.
mobile.
I don't eat fish.
Okay,
But,
but I know, I understand.
yeah.
But so that's it. We
Thank
have
you.
a lot of small business people here.
Yeah.
That need advice, whether when they're signing a store, a new lease, and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's an important part. People don't realize going over a lease how important that is,
Oh.
and all that stuff. I recommend, David, if you have a small business or you're an individual,
Right.
you have money problems, all these things, and everyone does, to make sure you're secure, to give a hold to David. David, I don't know where the half hour went.
You know what? I was concerned I wouldn't have enough to say, but you know what? I do my best lecturing at home.
Yeah.
I'm not here to lecture.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
glad I got through the half hour. I
No,
appreciate
no,
you
no,
having me
no,
again.
No, I really want to thank you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Great. I'm coming back at 11 o'clock.
There you go. 11 o'clock, come in. But David, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Paul.
I respect you. We don't
Thank
see
you.
each other enough. We used to go out to lunch once in a
Sure,
while.
sure.
Life gets in its way, but make sure
Right.
we get together.
You were busy setting this whole thing up, and you did.
2
From what I
years.
can tell, it's a beautiful job.
Yeah, 2 years in the process. We're going to
Right.
talk a little bit about this more
Yeah.
later. So if you want to tune in on
Thank
your
you.
drive home,
Yeah.
put it on our app. But once again, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me again.
And like I said, welcome back. Get a hold of David Soble, Proven Resources. Look up his books. Hey, where do they get the book? Where do they look up the
You know
book?
what? I have one book. It's called Getting Out of Foreclosure: The No Nonsense Guide to Saving Your Home. That is actually a published book, over 300,000 downloads since 2003.
Okay.
The other books are actually ebooks, and
Okay.
if you want, you can also get our newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter. It's all online.
All right,
Okay.
well, David,
Thank you.
very much.
Okay.
We're going to take a little break
to-
here
good to
at
see
the
you.
top of the hour,
Okay.
and we'll be back here at Talking Biz on NewRadioMedia.com.